Very much. I just will have one question, and I'm going to go to Mr. Gow and Mr. Smith. I personally have been very disappointed in this administration's position, and I'm leading up to the question with regard to human rights and religious freedom. They have failed the Coptic community in Egypt and the Baha'is in Egypt. They have failed. There are a number of Catholic bishops in jail in China, and they failed to advocate. They failed to advocate for the Uyghurs, who are going through a very difficult time in China. They've been very weak in speaking out with ties in Iran. Has the American embassy and did the American ambassador come to the aid of your people under this circumstance? Did the American ambassador? I have said the American embassy should be an island of freedom, and the ambassador should be very aggressive, as it was during the Reagan administration and other administrations, whereby the embassy of the United States was viewed as an island of freedom, whereby the American ambassador would advocate for human rights and religious freedom. Republican and Democrat, it doesn't matter. The question is, what kind of response did the American ambassador help in this case? I see people in the audience shaking their head no, but no? Dr. Tan, do you want to, we can just give your name for the record.
Very quick statement here. Ambassador Michael Mihalak did write back, characterizing this as a land dispute issue, and also saying that because this involves only Vietnamese citizens, therefore the U.S. Embassy couldn't do anything.
Well, but
and that is in writing.
could we see a copy letter? You know, I think personally, if that is the case, and the Americans did not advocate for, I think they ought to fire the American ambassador. I think we should have an ambassador in Vietnam and every country who will advocate for the way it has always been in the past. The American embassy has always been an island of freedom. They've always been advocates for human rights and religious freedom. And this commission, as Mr. Vandermeer testified, deals with international human rights and religious freedom. So the very fact that the American ambassador did not and the embassy did not, I think is very, very embarrassing.
PC money.
What?
He has PC money.
Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I want to resonate your disappointment with respect to the Secretary's position on Vietnam's human rights and religious freedom issue. I believe that her statement saying, and this I quote, the United States will continue to urge Vietnam to strengthen its commitment to human rights is simply lip service. I believe that the Secretary's statement was said simply to appease some members of Congress, like the members of the Tom Lantos Commission, but I believe that they do not intend to carry through with the statement, and that if we were to look at some of the news that have been received from Southeast Asia, from the Department of Defense, as well as from the Department of State, the increase in cooperation, the increase in coordination with respect to defense issues clearly shows that the Secretary does not intend to force Vietnam to address the human rights and religious freedom issues before implementing further cooperation. So again, I want to resonate my disappointment along with my dissatisfaction with respect to the actions of the Secretary of State. And my first question goes to Mr. Mead. Could you further elaborate the linkage between property rights and religious freedom?
Property rights disputes per se are not necessarily religious freedom, but if it involves deterring people from their practice of faith in religious ceremonies and religious functions, then it certainly is an issue of religious freedom.
Now, the government of Vietnam contends that there is religious freedom in Vietnam in the sense that people are free to worship. In your opinion, what does religious freedom imply and whether or not the Vietnamese government allows such freedom?
I can't speak to specifics, but I think that the fact that religious rights go beyond religious freedom. The Commission has been concerned about religious freedom in Vietnam. We contend that it still should be a country of particular concern. We have looked at this situation as the other witnesses have testified today. Certainly we would claim that would be an issue of religious freedom. The Commission met last year with a Catholic priest who was imprisoned because of his faith and his actions. So we would contend that Vietnam has a long way to go in the aspect of religious freedom.
My next question would be the best approach for the U.S. to take to encourage the Vietnamese government to affirm its commitments to religious freedom.
We advocate the redesignation of Vietnam as a country of particular concern. We think that when they have that designation previously, it didn't impede the growth in business or other cooperation between the United States and Vietnam. It was a useful tool for the State Department and the administration to have as Vietnam sought enhanced trade status. We believe that redesignating the country as a CPC would actually have benefits for Vietnam.
Mr. Kumar?
Yeah, the best way to do is obviously the Congress should exert pressure through different channels. But bilaterally, the relationship between US and Vietnam is improving, and there is no sign that it's going to change. So the administration should have some benchmarks. Unless they have benchmarks and review in between, Vietnamese are going to take all these statements and just ignore it. For example, they should first make sure that all the prisoners who are in custody are released. Even Father Lee, he was not released. He was released on condition. He could be brought back any time, so he was not released at all. From Amnesty's point of view, he is still a prisoner, even though he is there going to custody. Second is, whenever Secretary Clinton visits Vietnam, she should also meet with religious leaders and meet with the families here, those families, and go to Montagnard, in the hill areas, sensitive areas, where Vietnamese government will be reluctant to say no because they need US relationship at this time. So the bottom line is whether the administration is ready to push the envelope. They should push the envelope as they have been pushing on Burma now. That's the strategy they have to adapt.
This question is to Mr. Thang Nguyen or Mr. Wang Nguyen. Do you know the names of any companies, American companies that are invested in the properties of Nguyen?
I have some document. They say that's some group. That's name. Yeah, some group. This company from Ukraine, Vietnamese, Ukraine with Vietnamese. I think so. In Ukraine, they run the business in the Da Nang.
Any American companies besides the Stump?
I don't know, but some people think maybe some company behind that.
Stump?
Yeah, behind some group. But we cannot find out right now. But we try.
And based on your knowledge, has any charges been brought against the person that ordered the police to crack down on the villagers? Has there been any charges brought against those police officials who were involved in the torture?
Đã có những những người công an mà đàn áp em cô dâu có bị truy tố hay chưa?
Về những người công an đàn áp con dâu cũng như tức là những người công an đã đánh anh Nguyễn Thanh Nam chết chưa hề bị truy tố, mà chỉ có những người dân là bị truy tố và bị nhà nước bắt buộc phải trả tiền cho công an về cái tội đánh dân.
So you're saying that not only the villagers were beaten, they were also forced to pay the expenses that the police of Da Nang incurred as a result of the incident?
Yeah.
Can you clarify on this? People who was detained, 60 people was detained. Each of them have to pay a fine ranging from 1.5 million Vietnam dong to 5 million Vietnam dong because of their involvement in the funeral. That not counting many other people also being fined.
More about this question, President Nguyen Thang, he had to spend about 2.6 billion dong, and then he told to everybody, con giáo, parishioner, have to pay for that. So everybody attend in Dan Thị Tấn funeral must pay about that. For example, my brother, my own brother, he have to pay about 1.5 million, and some people pay 5 million. But about 500 people attend in Dan Thị funeral.
Is there any evidence that you might have of his somehow being corrupted? Because as I've said in my opening statement, that the laws of Vietnam provide loopholes for corrupt officials to abuse villagers, to abuse believers, and to use the loopholes in the laws to benefit themselves and to benefit their families. Do you have any knowledge, any evidence of corruption on the part of Mr. Nguyen Thang?
Yeah, document about his corruption. Then in the end, some people call him his guy that 10% guy. That means every investment deal, yeah, he got about 10% of. So con giáo, that's what con giáo. I want to talk about whole develop about that, about $600 million USA, right? He get about 10% in that.
So if you can provide me with, you said you have documents, if you can provide me with documents or maybe testimony from anyone would be very beneficial to us.